That day, I just wanted a place to smoke. My girlfriend Kelly wouldn't let me light up in her apartment, said the smell stuck to her curtains and couch made her nauseous. She's always been blunt, and I didn't feel like arguing. I grabbed my pack and headed out. I walked a few blocks south, and by chance, turned onto Church Street. That's when I saw it, the old, broken-down church. I'd heard about it before, vaguely. Supposedly built by German immigrants, long since abandoned, no services, no upkeep. I didn't think much of it, just noticed it was quiet, no one around, and the door was open. So I went in. The air was cold and damp. My footsteps echoed across the warped floorboards. I walked in a few steps and sat on one of the long pews. The stained glass windows were dull with grime, the images too faded to make out. The ceiling was high to high. It pressed down with its silence. I lit up, took one drag, and immediately realized how dead silent it was in there. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then I heard something move behind me. I turned, but nothing was there. The sound wasn't like wind or rats. It was softer, like fabric dragging across wood. I didn't move, just kept smoking and glanced sideways. The sound came again, closer this time. I stood up slowly, cigarette still wedged between my fingers, and moved toward the center aisle. The church was dim, only a few slivers of broken light leaked through the stained glass. At the far end of the aisle, something shifted. I froze. It wasn't a person. It was something else, something large, hunched, and wrong. It was twisted up like it barely fit into that space. Its skin was grey-white, its limbs impossibly long and limp, dangling like they had no bones. Worst of all was the face. It had no features, just holes. A few gaping, black pits where a face should have been. Long black hair fell over its head, spilling past the pits and dragging along the floor, almost touching my feet. I froze. The heat from my cigarette finally singed my fingers, snapping me back. I dropped it. The thing didn't move. It just sat there waiting. I started backing away, step by slow step, trying not to make a sound. Its head tilted slightly, no eyes, but I knew it was watching me. I wanted to run, but my legs were jelly. Felt like something was pressing down on me. Suddenly, the creature's hair began to move toward me like it had a mind of its own. I backed up until I stumbled and hit the floor. The hair reached me, brushed against my ankle. It was ice cold, like dunking my foot in a frozen lake. Who are you?" I heard myself whisper. My voice didn't even sound like mine. No reply. But from those dark holes, a sound started. A low, vibrating hum, like dozens of people breathing in unison, or singing a hymn too deep to understand. My head exploded with pain. My ears rang. My vision dimmed at the edges. I tried to push myself up, but the hair wrapped tight around my leg. I yanked, scratched, pulled, it only tightened. "Let me go," I shouted, and kicked hard. Suddenly the strands unraveled, and I didn't wait. I scrambled for the door. My whole body was shaking. The sound stopped behind me. I never looked back. I burst out the front doors and ran all the way to Kelly's place. She was stunned when she opened the door, said I was covered in dust and bleeding from one hand. I just told her I needed water. She brought me a glass and sat next to me. I didn't go home that night. She let me crash on the couch. I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying that faceless face. The way that hair felt on my skin. That was no dream. That was real. The next morning, I stopped by the corner store to grab another pack of smokes. An old man behind the counter saw my shaking hands and asked if I was sick. I said I went to the old church on the south end of town. His face went pale. His mouth twitched. "You heard it, didn't you?" he asked. "Heard what?" "The hymn." I didn't say anything. He stared for a moment, then shook his head and turned away. I've never gone back to that street, and I haven't smoked since. That Saturday, the air hung thick and heavy. I dragged my feet to meet Leah, who said she knew a place we could visit free of charge. So I agreed. She took me to the old church outside town. No one stood at the entrance. The wind made the door creak like someone was moving inside. The walls were peeling, moss creeping between the bricks. I asked if there was really a caretaker here. She nodded and said someone would come soon to take us down. After about 10 minutes, a middle-aged man emerged from the church. He didn't give his name, only said, "The lights are bad. Stay close." We descended a set of stone stairs behind a heavy door. The steps were narrow and slick, the walls pressing in on us, our footsteps echoing too loudly. My chest tightened. It felt like walking into a pipe with no end. The air in the crypt below was cold as a cellar. Stone coffins lined the walls, some with their lids half open, revealing shriveled bones draped in black cloth, old burial shrouds, maybe, or something else. The dim yellow light carried a burnt smell, like an old bulb about to burst. The man spoke slowly. "These people. Been dead a long time, don't get too close." We stayed silent, following him through the twisting passages. The path dipped and curved like a maze. One section was unnaturally still, a cracked crucifix hanging above a row of small coffins, children's, maybe. I tried not to look, but then a coffin lid moved, not from the wind, not my imagination. A clear, unmistakable sound was scraping against stone. I froze. No one else reacted. I glanced at Leah. She stared at the ground, her grip white-knuckled around her water bottle. The sound stopped, as if nothing had happened. But I heard it. Then the lights flickered. The man paused. "We need to move fast here. The wiring's bad." He didn't turn around. We had no choice but to follow. His pace quickened, my pulse raced. I wanted to look back at those small coffins, but my body refused, weighed down by something I couldn't name. Minutes later, he led us into the deepest passage. The air turned icy, well-like. He entered first. Leah and I stayed close. Cracks spider-webbed the walls here, stained with old, rust-brown marks that would never wash out. No coffins, just bones stacked into the walls. Not arranged with care, just piled, skulls still clinging to wisps of hair. The stench of mildew clung to the air, like damp cloth left to rot. Then, halfway through, the man stopped. His flashlight died. We were trapped in the dark, the light sputtering. That's when I heard it, a faint cough. Not from any of us. Did anyone just cough? I whispered. No answer. Leah pressed against me. Her hand was ice cold, like the back of a freezer. "There's someone by the wall," she breathed. I didn't look. But in my periphery, I caught it, a blurred shape. Its head tilted wrong. Its feet not moving, like it had grown out of the stone. I didn't speak. "I knew if you talk, it hears you," the man said. "This part's almost over," but his voice had changed. No longer steady, shaking, we looped back toward the stairs. Just before the exit, I heard its soft footsteps behind us. Step, step, like something walking on water. I turned. Nothing there, but I felt it. Breath on the back of my neck. That's when I ran. Leah too. We scrambled up the stairs, our shoes slipping on the wet stone. I nearly fell, bursting through the heavy door. Sunlight still poured outside. Neither of us dared look back. The man never came up. We sat on the church steps, silent. Finally, I asked, "Did you see it move?" Leah only nodded. I didn't press further. We called the police later, reported a missing person. But when they went down, they found nothing. Just faulty wiring, they said. That night, something pressed against my window. No sound, no shadow, but I knew it was watching. In the corner, my coat hung on the rack, except now it had an extra sleeve, dangling, motionless. I kept the lights on all night, didn't sleep. The next morning, Leah texted me, "Do you think he ever meant to come back up?" I didn't reply, not because I didn't want to. Because I was afraid. She wasn't asking about the guide. She was asking about the thing, and whether it ever planned to let us leave. I never thought I'd step foot in that church. It was a gloomy Sunday afternoon. I was driving through St. Mary's Hollow when the storm hit a downpour so violent my wipers couldn't keep up. I pulled over, squinting through the rain-streaked windshield at the grey stone spire piercing the sky. The stained glass windows glowed a sickly yellow, like some ancient summons. The iron gate wasn't locked. Rusted hinges groaned as I pushed inside. 12 rows of pews stood empty, save for an old woman in a black dress kneeling at the front. Candlelight danced across her hunched spine, casting her shadow over the saints painted on the walls. Their eyes seemed to follow me as I walked. "We don't get outsiders here often." Her voice cracked like dry bark. She didn't turn, her bony fingers working a rosary, the wooden beads clacking like a rattlesnake's tail. "Just sheltering from the rain," I said, wiping my arms. Dust from the pews clung to my fingertips, greasy. When she finally turned, her sunken eye sockets made my stomach lurch like someone had scooped out her eyes, leaving only voids. "The bell tower chimes at 3, she grinned, her teeth jagged. "Don't count the third toll." Above us, the pipe organ wheezed like a dying man. I looked up to see the keys depressing on their own, phantom fingers hammering the same bass note over and over a failing heartbeat. The old woman cackled. "Father likes to practice during his nap." I wanted to leave, but the rain pounding the stained glass had changed. It wasn't rain anymore, something was hitting the windows. Each cent in the glass was twisted in agony, their panes bulging with the shape of hands. "They want to hear the sermon," the woman said, rising. Her rosary snapped, beads scattering across the floor. Then the bells rang. The first toll snuffed every candle flame sideways. The second made dark liquid seep from the pew cracks. The smell of iron filled the air. Beneath the floorboards, something scratched. The woman's Latin prayers became a shriek. I ran before the third bell. Outside, the rain had stopped. My car was gone. Only 4 deep gouges in the mud remained as if something had dragged it away. When I turned back, the sunts in the stained glass smiled at me in unison. Between their teeth, they held my car keychain, a little bear I'd had since college. The sheriff found my car the next day, 20 miles away. The tank was empty, but the back seat was filled with dried rose petals. The radio was stuck on 93.3 FM, a station that didn't exist, crackling with Latin hymns. "St. Mary's Hollow." The sheriff frowned at his map. "Ain't been a church there in 30 years, just a graveyard," he pointed. Right where I'd parked, the map showed a faded cross. Now, whenever it rains, I get blank texts. Last week, I called the number back. 3 bell tolls answered. Then the old woman's laughter. Yesterday, I found half a rosary bead hanging from my rearview mirror. My name was carved into it.